Riders, welcome back to Sam's Bikes, where you know we only talk e-bikes. And today we have Marshall Mullen again on e-talk. This guy can really ride a bike. Marshall's been lucky enough to ride the new Levo for the last 3 or 4 months. He's got loads of tips and advice on setup, so we go super deep. If you're thinking about buying the new Levo, you need to watch this video. But before we get into that, you know we love giving stuff away. The lovely people at Ride Concepts, one of our major sponsors, is giving away a pair of shoes again to celebrate the release of the new Vice Mid, the new Hellion Elite, and the Sam Pilgrim Signature Wildcat. All these shoes are looking awesome. It's super easy to enter. All you need to do is subscribe to Sam's Bikes, comment on this video which style of Ride Concept shoes you want, and it's that easy. On the 25th of April, Sunday night, on my weekly show, I will announce the winner. So riders, make sure you enter. And now on to e-talk with Marshall Mullen.
Marshall, thank you so much for your time, mate. We love having you back at e-talk. And mate, we are lucky guys. We're on the Gen 3.
We are very lucky. That is right. Sam, thank you so much for having me on. I love being on your show.
No worries, buddy. And how's life? What's been happening?
Oh, life's been great. Busier than heck. Been all over the place. You probably saw I just got back from Utah. I was out there filming with the new Levo here. I've been riding this bike for a while now. And anyways, we just got back from Utah, filmed a kind of an overview of the bike. And
Nice.
Yeah, I'm super fired up on it.
Just give the riders a little intro to who you are and what you do with Specialized.
Okay. So I have been with Specialized for probably, I think this is my 9th year now. Got on with them 9 years ago, started off riding dirt jumps and building jumps in my yard and started riding helmets and then frames. And I took it down, but I had a dirt jump frame up there and kind of slowly evolved and transitioned into trail bike stuff. And I did trail bike stuff. And then I was kind of dying out. And then I got into e-bikes with them. And ever since then, it's just been full gas on the e-bikes. I love it. To me, it's just, this is like a completely brand new sport. It's incredible.
Oh, it's amazing, mate. It's, I've had the bike now a week. I think I've done 350 Ks. I haven't been able to get off the bike. It's been so much fun. And I really enjoyed the video that you dropped on the SL. What was that, about 2 or 3, maybe 4 months ago with the Courier? That was really nice. Whereabouts was that shot?
Yeah. That was actually, there's a really funny story that's involved in that shoot. It's called, if you want to check it out, it's called Extreme Commuting. It's up on Specialized YouTube.
To give the riders out there an idea, Marshall has been riding with Specialized for 9 years. And at the moment, you have a Levo SL, a Gen 3, you did have a Gen 2, and you have a Kenevo. And riders, they are super pimped, all the bikes. So we're in good hands here. He knows what he's talking about, definitely. And I know we're very lucky, like I've got the S-Works, you've got the S-Works, and they're expensive bikes, and we're super lucky and appreciative to ride these bikes, but we're also here to help the riders educate people on what they want to know. So I've got some questions for you. How many Ks? I mean, it's no secret that we do get these bikes earlier. How many Ks have you put on the Gen 3? More or less.
On the Gen 3, I actually have it all logged in my app, so I'd have to check it out. But I actually have a lot of time on the Gen 3. Probably, I don't know how many Ks. I'm going to go off of hours, and I'm probably at like 200 hours, maybe.
That's a lot. Yeah.
100, probably 150 to 200 is my guess. Yeah, I got a lot of time on this bike.
Nice.
Yeah.
And are you loving it?
I love this bike right now so much. But it's interesting when I first got it, this was months ago, I pulled it out of the box. I'm like, oh, fired up, new bike, mixed wheel size. It seemed like it had a lot of things that I wanted on the bike. And I went out on the first ride and I was kind of tuning suspension and getting the bike set up, like I always do. And I went out on the first ride and I wasn't like crazy fired up. It was weird. I was like, it's awesome. It's a great bike. I loved it, but I wasn't jumping out of my skin. And then I came home and kind of adjust the suspension a little bit and changed rolled the bars back and did a couple things, and went out the second time and I was like, okay, a little bit better. And then I started changing the geometry. It's got this little flip tip here, which we can talk about later. But I changed that and then went out for the third. I was like, oh my God, this bike is insane. So it's kind of weird. Most bikes you can tell right away. This one took me like 3 rides. But then once I figured it out, I was like, game on. This thing's incredible.
Totally, man. Like, I mean, I'm very lucky as well. Like I've ridden all the lineup, and I've ridden lots of bikes in the last couple of years. And there's some bikes you get on and you love straight away. And with me, the Levo Gen 3 wasn't that bike. Like, I got on it and I was like, it's nervous. The bike's nervous. I'm nervous to push it. But today, I mean, at 6:30 at night on Easter Thursday, I just went out and did a 50K, and far out, man. I opened it up for the first time today. Woo, scared the shit out of myself. But it's there's moments in this bike that you forget you're on an e-bike. For a 20 kilo bike, I mean, when you're jumping, you can feel it. But when you are like in the moment, you forget you're on an e-bike. Really.
And I think the reason why it takes, like, it sounds like you kind of had a similar situation, but the reason why it takes a little bit to get the feel of this bike and get comfortable on it is because there's so many things to adjust. I mean, you all know you can adjust the head tube angle, you can adjust the rear end here, it's mixed wheel size. There's a lot of new features that you have to change and adjust, and you can fine tune it to your riding style, but it does actually take a little bit. So once you figure it out,
I was thinking that as well. Like, maybe, I'm not saying sacrifice the ride setup, but maybe the fact that there are so many different things to tune out of the box, it's not going to ride as well as something that, like maybe the SL or the Kenevo, where out of the box, the Kenevo ride's amazing straight out of the box, but there's nothing to change. Right. So this takes a bit more rider input to set up, I think.
It definitely does.
You had a lot of time on the Gen 2. What's the major differences for you? Like, how has it changed your riding style, if anything? What differences are there?
So this is actually kind of interesting. The way this bike comes out of the box, it has a lot of things about it that are very similar to the way I have built up my Gen 2. For example, recently I've been putting the 38 on the front. This one now comes with a 38 at 160. Previously a while ago they came at 150 and I was bumping them up to 160. So it has that right now. The other thing, as you know, I've been putting the Float X2
on
my bike. Huge difference. And it comes with it. The same thing with the Axis. I've been putting the 12-speed Axis on there. And it's great. And then on my Kenevo, I've done the mixed wheel size, 27.5 in the back, 29 in the front. So as far as the difference between the Gen 2 and the Gen 3, this bike out of the box has a lot of the features that I was doing to my Gen 2. So it's much more similar. But the differences with this one is it has a 27.5 out of the box. So this chainstay gets shorter, which shortens up the rear end, and it's a complete different feel for the bike. It's a new machine, and you cannot do that on the Gen 2. So that's the biggest difference. It has all my parts, but it's a different frame.
Yeah,
better.
We're talking the chainstay 457 compared to 442. And also not only just the chainstay, we're talking about the wheel size. So we're probably taking 4 centimeters off the back of the bike.
It's big. It's big.
And it's definitely noticeable. I noticed that, I mean, coming from the Levo SL, which has a very short chainstay as well, I think 437, but we've got a 29 wheel. I've noticed on the first, like really opening it up, when I'm pushing out of a corner, I'm getting the back end starting to get, the back end's going loose, man. You got to be careful not to fully slide out.
It's great. It's
fun. It's super fun.
Right.
I had it today and it was just completely sideways coming out of the corner. I was like, whoa, you almost have to change your weight a little bit on the bike and go back Like,
Yeah.
it's a,
Well,
it's,
it's not like most e-bikes out there. I mean, this frame is almost the same as the Stumpy Evo, the new Stumpy Evo from Specialized. That's the best mountain bike out there,
yeah, yeah.
non-e-bike, and this frame it's the same thing. So it's huge, big difference.
As I said, like there's moments where I forget I'm on an e-bike, but
Yeah.
not jumping, but
Yeah.
handling. Wow, it does. There's definitely.
Yeah.
Now,
Totally.
who do you think? Do you think I mean, obviously, looking at this bike, just by the look of it, it looks like an enduro bike or a super enduro bike. But we got 160 at the front, 150 at the back, mullets,
Yep.
and it's a trail bike. Well, it's a
Mhm.
trail bike on steroids. Who's this
Yeah.
bike for? Do you think it's changed between the Levo Gen 2?
I don't think it's changed who it's for, but it's opened it up into a wider range of people. For what you're just saying, it's got the mixed wheel size here. This bike is way more capable than the other one, um, as far as handling aggressive terrain, and the front is adjustable and the back's adjustable. So all those things come into play to make this bike uh, uh, good for a wide range of people. You can make it very aggressive and handle rough terrain and jumps and turns, but you can also lift up the back end or bring in the rake of the front, and it's more of like a lighter trail bike that's going to handle flat terrain. And so the Gen 2 was great. It was really capable, but it was kind of trying to cater to everyone in one shot,
Yep.
whereas this one is highly adjustable, so you really can tailor the bike to your needs, I guess. So it's for the same person, but it opens it up to many more people. For someone like yourself who, wants an aggressive bike where you want more of that aggressive enduro bike that you're talking about rather than an e-bike that's for everyone, you can do that with this one.
I think someone that's a capable rider and really knows how to ride is going to really appreciate this bike more.
Yeah.
But also, like saying that, if you want something tame, you can tame it down massively. It's like
Absolutely.
you can put it down to 63.5 or go up to 65.5. Okay, so these are not the cheapest bikes out there, and Specialized has only released the top 2 specs. Would you be recommending people to upgrade? Do you think it's a massive upgrade, or you think the majority of people are going to be happier or just as happy on the Gen 2?
Well, I think yes and no, and it kind of goes back to the last thing we were saying. If you are just kind of a new rider to the sport, like the e-bikes are opening up the sport into a massive range of people, right? So there's a lot of people who normally wouldn't go out and ride a mountain bike, and now they're riding it because they can with an e-bike. And they're not necessarily hardcore mountain bikers, but they're loving it, and the bikes are getting them out on the trails, and they're riding with friends and everything. And so that type of person on a Gen 2, it's fine. It's great. The bikes are incredibly capable. We've all ridden them. They're unbelievable. So for them to swap over to a new one, that's great if they want to do that, but they're not getting as big of a benefit swapping over as someone like you or I would. So if you're really an aggressive mountain biker, or someone who's really into the sport and knows what they're talking about and about geometry and can feel the difference and part spec, no questions asked. You have to switch. It's a completely different bike. I mean, it handles everything better. It's adjustable. The part spec's better. It's S sizing now too. There's a longer top tube and a shorter rear end.
Yeah.
Much better. The feel of this bike's incredible. So if you're someone who can appreciate it and use it for what it's for, you can't even describe it. It's so much better.
I was out with my mate today who's got an S Works Gen 2, and he was super jealous. Like, he was just looking at it. I let him have it. It's a bit evil here for me because I ride Australian brake setup or European brakes, so I ride moto style, and everyone rides the opposite. So no one can ride my bike unless we change the brakes. So I'm like, oh, I'll have a ride, and he's like, oh, I'm not so sure I want to have a ride. This could be very expensive. And he hopped on it, and he's the type of guy that would appreciate it. Like his Levo is He's got 36s at the front. He's put it to 160. He's got an X2 at the
Yeah.
back. He's got Hope
Mhm.
brakes. He's got good tires. You know, he's really spec'd it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think an amateur or someone new to the sport is not going to benefit that much. Well, it's still going to benefit
Yeah.
because it's a new
Yeah.
bike, but it's not going to be a massive benefit.
Right. It's not to say that someone new to the sport shouldn't switch over. I mean, if you
No,
can do it, by all means, you're gonna.
exactly.
Yeah, the parts spec alone is worth it. Um, but it really opens up the bike to, you know, your aggressive rider a lot.
Now we have a bit of a touchy subject here about Specialized releasing only the S Works and the Pro, and people are kicking up a stink about the price, but the price seems pretty normal for Specialized and top tier companies. What's your thought about them just releasing those two top specs? And also, for me, I think it's the first time they've ever done it. I don't know if they've done it
Yeah, I
before.
think it is. I think it is.
I feel it might have something to do with COVID. I'm not sure because it's hard to get parts and all that stuff. But anyway, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, COVID is definitely going into this. I mean, I know some stuff they're having major, not only Specialized people are having major problems, even getting the materials to make the bikes. So it's very challenging. But as far as releasing the top two models, I don't know the strategy behind that, I guess, but you know, the top two models are the ones that sell out a lot. They have no problem selling the S Works, and now they added the Pro. That's kind of a new model in the mix. That thing's great. It's basically the same thing. I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference. It's got a Fox dropper post, and it doesn't have the electronic drivetrain. It's got, you know, a cable in it. So other than that, they're very similar models. Both are very good. You know, that the S Works and I guess now the Pro that's their top line. That's their best bike, and they have no problem selling those things. And so to release that one right away, it just, you know, it's going to show the beauty of this bike, really.
Yeah, and I think I mean the S Works has always been the flagship and, you know, their
Yeah.
most expensive bike, and it's always been an
Yeah.
expensive bike. But if you look at the Pro in Europe, it's 11,500 euros, and
Yeah.
if you check out Trek and Santa Cruz, the Bullet,
Yeah.
they're top spec bikes. I would say the Pro, in my opinion, is better spec than Trek Rail top spec and the Bullet top spec, because the
Yeah.
Pro is absolutely blinging. Okay, it doesn't have
Yeah.
wide shifting or seat post.
Yeah.
There's nothing apart from the brakes. I'd change the brakes probably, but I don't like codes. But there's nothing else I'd change on that bike. So I think it has to come down to, obviously, they probably couldn't create all the bikes at once. And, you know,
Yeah.
if you are going to be pushing out a new product, why not help the top two products sell the bottom two in 6 months' time?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I don't think, like, same like you, I've gotten all these comments and questions and everyone's freaking out about the price. And oh my God, that's insane. And I don't think it's insane. I mean, I've been saying that for a long time. I'm like, man, you could price these things even higher than they are. So 15K for this bike, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money, but look what you're getting. I mean, this thing's incredible. This is the best mountain bike in the world right here. And, you know, look at what does it cost to get a brand new, you know, Honda 450 or something. Yeah, it's different, just a different sport, but
I hate that comment. I hate that. Oh, you can get a motorbike for that. Yeah, but you can't take a motorbike to a mountain bike park. You can't take a motorbike anywhere. You got to go to a private circuit and pay money to go in.
Exactly.
This bike, like my friends, I love my mates that go and buy $8,000 analog bikes.
Yeah.
And they don't ride them. They just sit in the shed.
Yep.
And an e-bike is never going to sit in the shed. They're too much fun.
Yeah, you're going to ride it everywhere.
Yeah,
you're going to ride it to the store. You're going to ride it on the trails and bike park, everything.
I mean, I've had it. I'm going to say I've had it a week now, and I've put 350 Ks on it. I mean, that's a fair few Ks. I did a range test the other day. man, the range is good. I did 1,250 meters of vertical climbing and five
Yep.
and a half hours in the saddle and
Yep.
79.5 Ks. That's a pretty decent effort.
Yeah. It's
And
incredible. They're insane. And then you just, every time you ride them that much, you want to get back on it and ride it again. So I don't think the price is insane.
no, and
It's
you
right.
have to be a little bit simple. Sorry, riders,
Yeah.
but you have to be simple not to understand that they're going to release the next 2 models, like maybe even 3. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have at least 4 in the lineup, maybe 5. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna. I'm sure we'll see at least before Christmas. We'll see at least one. I think before Christmas we'll see 2 more models.
Yeah.
So if Specialized came to you and said, "Hey, mate, we want you just to give us your lowdown. Would you change anything? There's something you don't like from the bike. What would you change, if anything?"
No, it's funny. I was just out riding this the other day and I was thinking about it and I was like, man, I don't think there's anything I would change on this bike. I couldn't even think of anything. Um, the only thing I would say is the Float X2 shock on here that comes on this bike is great. It has a tune that comes on it that has a bit more compression than I would like. The reason is that that shock will work for the majority of the people out there. The bike's a little bit heavier. Most riders are a little heavier than I am, so it has more of a progression or more of a compression tune on it.
Yeah.
If you're riding across flat terrain that has a little bit of, if it's rough, essentially anything that's not pinned out fast downhill stuff, it will be a little bit harsher than you may like, but that will work for most of the people out there. I'm very, very light, so I think my personal thing, the only thing I would change on this is I would redo that tune to work better for my lighter weight.
And when you
That's
say
about the only thing I can think.
and when you say tune, are you talking about changing the compression, the low speed, high speed, rebound, or the actual internal tune?
Yeah, the internal thing, it has to be done by Fox. So the way, if you were to get that shock, it has a different tune than, another bike would have.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm ex BMX. I don't really know a lot about suspension, and but I found it. My experience it's like a race bike or a race car. When I first took it out, I was like, I didn't find it super plush. I found it kind of like jittery but fast, and that's
the tune.
That's the tune, and that's what made me a bit nervous. But now, after putting 350 Ks on it, I'm starting to understand it. And I picked up my bike a day before the release. And I'm going to say I was a little bit, I'm not disappointed, but I thought it was going to be a 170, 160. And that's the enduro side of me.
160.
That's the enduro of me. And like you, I like to ride hard.
Yeah.
And I don't normally buy trail bikes. Trail bikes are not sort of something that I'm more of an enduro. So I was kind of going, I wish it had a little bit more. But I reckon I understand why, because 150 at the back, they're probably going to find it hard to keep that short end, to give more stroke. They'll have to sacrifice the short back end. And if I have to have a longer back end than 160 or a shorter back end than 150, I'm going short back end 150 all day long.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing too that I've been thinking about with the old Gen 2 one. The shock that came on the bike was a 210 by 52.5.
Yeah.
And I put on this bike a 210 by 55. That was the previous Gen 2 model, right?
Yeah.
So I increased the stroke of the shock a little bit, which gave me more travel.
Yeah.
This bike now comes with it comes with a 210 by 55. So the exact same length that I was putting on the Gen 2, slightly longer stroke, but it still has 150 millimeters of travel.
Yeah.
So I can tell a big difference on this new bike. For me, it has less travel. It has the same as the previous Gen 2, but since I increased the travel on the other one, this one now has less, and I can tell a big difference. So I'm wondering, I don't think Fox makes it. I don't think. but you could probably get a slightly longer stroke rear shock.
Stroke. Yep.
Yeah, and do the same thing that I was doing on the other one, and you're probably going to get. I'm saying it's going to be about 160 travel on the back.
Is that going to be our Levo Evo? Oh yeah.
I don't know what that's going to be, but it's
Oh
going to
yeah.
be good.
Oh yeah. So out of the box, the Levo Gen 3 comes very well spec'd. Have you done any upgrades? And if so, what have you done?
The only thing I've done is I changed the brakes. I took off the Maguras that come on it, and I have the SRAM code. I like those a little better.
Sin.
Oh, you don't like that?
No, that's all good.
What brakes do you like?
I like Magura MT5, MT7s, and also Shimano. I like the on-off power, but that's, I mean, codes are
I'm
fine.
actually not familiar with Magura. I haven't ridden them really, so I can't really speak for them. I definitely like to have all my bikes have the same grips and brakes and bars. Got to have that, so they all feel the same.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I did this. Is I want them all feeling the same, and I like these brakes a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of used to them. So that's just personal preference. The other thing is I put deity bars on there. They're pretty much the exact same thing as the Specialized ones that come on the bike.
Yep.
So it's pretty much just a different logo. And then I put a seat. I have the short power saddle.
Okay.
I went into a retool center one time and got fit, and they said that's the seat I should be using. So, and that's it. That's the only thing I've changed. Yeah.
Nice. Have you seen mine?
No. Yes, I have seen yours. I did see it.
Yeah,
you went all over the place.
I pimped mine out a little bit. I mainly, I have the sponsors of the channel, and that's kind of the thing. And I'm not a pro rider or anything, but these companies do help out the channel, and also they're great products. But man, I'm like you. I need the same brakes, and I need the same tires. Tires are super important. Same brakes, same tires, same grips, same handlebars, and same stem. I need it. And when you jump on a bike, we are pushing those bikes pretty hard. You more than me. Yeah. But for me, it's safety. I want to know what those brakes are going to do.
Absolutely. For someone like me, I always say I'll be riding the bike that I'm going to be filming on up until the point where I film, so there'll be some times where I don't even touch my SL, or I haven't touched my Evo for 6 months or something, or, I usually stick on one bike. So, or sometimes it's the opposite, I'm switching between a bunch of different bikes on something. And then one day I got to go out and film on the SL, and I haven't ridden it for a while. So it goes back to what you're saying. I like to have the same grips, bars, brakes, and seat, pedals, everything that you're coming in contact with, all the same. It makes it so much easier to switch between bikes, and it's a safety thing. I mean, it's that you get on the bike and they all feel the same.
Yeah, for me that's it. And also, I mean, hats off to Specialized for that new Butcher up front. What a cracking tire! Love it.
Insane.
It's a massive improvement, because the last tire, I didn't like the last tire. The last Butcher, I wasn't a fan of at all. So that new one's
incredible.
So much better. Okay, so let's talk setup now. As we've touched over, I found it a little bit difficult to set this bike up. What geometry settings have you tested, and what are you in at the moment?
Okay. So like I said, I've been riding it for a while. I've tested everything. To go over it, there's 3 angles on the front. There's, super slack, regular, and slightly steeper. And then the back, there's...
And hang on, and tell us, how long does it take to change between those settings? It's super quick, no?
Maybe, all you got to do is pull the stem off, pull the cap off, and put in a new cap. So 3 minutes.
Yeah, super, super quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and the back one, you kind of have to take the back wheel off to do the back one, but same thing, 3 minutes. Yeah. Easy.
Sweet. So what are you rocking? So what's your go-to setup now?
So my favorite thing is, so I've tried all of them. My favorite thing is low on the back and centered on the front. So just the straight thing. I like that a lot. And we were just out filming in Utah, and I did switch the back. Sometimes we filmed this one section that was kind of a more mellow, flat switchback trail, and I bumped that into the high setting, and then The next day we filmed some kind of aggressive downhill stuff, so I flopped it the other way to the low.
And
I like that.
what are you feeling between? That's funny you say that, because I don't think I don't really like going much slacker than 64. I don't think, for what I ride, I don't like 63.5 for me is too much. So I'll probably always say, but I was thinking of dropping it to the low. So what are you feeling between the high and low on the back?
You know, it's with the previous Gen 2, I don't think I ever ran it in the high. I think I tried it once and I was out. I like stopped halfway and flipped it, you know. So I always ran it in the low. This one's a little bit different. I can ride this one in the high, no problem. And it helps a lot. Kind of gets your pedals away from the rocks from hitting them, but then you drop it low and it's kind of an aggressive, you know, almost like feels like a downhill bike sort of. I think for the most part I'm going to be riding it in the low, but I actually will bump it up depending on the trail. And I agree with you on the fork. I don't really like to go much more slack than you know what that standard straight position is. I could steepen it up.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, 64.5. Yeah. I could steepen it up a little bit. But I haven't really been messing with that. I tried all the settings and I like it like this.
I don't know if it's just, I don't know, my BMX background or whatever. I generally just don't mess around with bikes too much. Like, I don't play around with the flip chips that much. And like on the Levo SL, I think that's 65.5, 66. I never had any problem with that at all. Like, I was just like, for me, the Levo SL, far out, what a bike.
So when you get this bike, if you don't want to play with your settings, you know, and you don't want to deal with any of that, the way it comes out of the box is it's going to be in the straight, I guess it's 64.5, and then in the back it's going to be on the high setting, and that's a great benchmark. So that's a good place to start. So if you have no idea what you're doing, just leave it. That's going to be your best bet.
Definitely. Now, talk me through. So right now I'm in the high setting, and I'm in the high setting 64.5. How would you set it up for me, an aggressive rider? I'm 183 centimeters, 80 kilos. How would you, if you were in, I mean, it's very difficult over Zoom, but how would you set up my bike for me right now? Because I feel like I'm getting there, but I don't feel it's perfect yet.
The first thing I would do is leave it the way it comes, which is the 64.5. It's just straight. You don't use either of the adjustment caps. I would start there. Now, I have had a buddy ride this thing and he said, it steers funny. I don't like the steering. And that's probably because it's slack. So if you feel like it's steering funny, you can switch it and have it, you know, make it a little bit steeper in the front. So that's what you could do at the front. To start off, I would just leave it in the 64.5 straight way. And in the back, I would go off of the terrain you're riding. You know, if you're doing steep downhill stuff, if you lower it, it's going to feel better. But if you're riding normal trail bike stuff, the high setting is going to be probably the best for you. Like I said, it keeps your pedals away from rocks. It's going to turn the best. You know, when you drop it down and you try and do some turns, it's just a little bit harder to get the bike around. So keep it in the high, it'll turn better. And then with suspension, that's kind of its own can of worms for that.
That's another video.
It's a whole nother video. But, you know, start with 20% sag on the shock, 15 to 20%.
On the rear?
Yeah, what do you run?
I run about 30. Yeah.
30?
Yeah, I run about 30. Yeah, I was.
Wow. Well,
I run about 30 on the front, on the back, and about 25 on the front. Okay.
There's nothing wrong with running 30. I can't really run that much because I'm jumping around and hitting bigger hits and stuff. So if I do that, it's just going to bottom out all the time. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you're not hitting big hits, then 30 is definitely okay. But at the same time, you get 30% sag, the back end of the bike is sagging down. It's the same thing as doing the flip chip back here, you know? So if you're at 30% sag, that thing better be in high.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you're going to be hitting some serious rocks.
You're going to be hitting all over the place. Yeah.
And
so maybe that's another reason.
And where would you start? So let's say we set our sag for an aggressive rider at 20% at the back and 20% or 15% on the front, and for a non-aggressive, maybe 30-25 or semi-aggressive. Where would you go from there as far as tuning your suspension? Would you start with rebound, compression? Where would you go next?
I always start with rebound. Specialized is pretty good about setting the air pressures on the suspension for what they assume the rider weight would be on a bike. So if you have like an S2, you're going to be much lighter. If you have an S5, you're going to be much heavier. It seems like they get the pressures pretty good. So usually they're fine. But as far as the tune, I would start with the rebound. And I actually just made a YouTube video about this, talking about adjusting
I'll put a link in
your
the
suspension.
description.
Yeah, and it goes over this. But the first thing I do is rebound. The fork, I usually make it a little bit faster, and the rear shock usually a little bit slower, generally.
Yep.
Now, when I pulled this bike out of the box, I literally didn't even touch the suspension. It was great. I think I've fine-tuned it a little bit since then, but it came very good. So the number one thing you can do is rebound, and then also your low-speed compression on the back and the front. This bike has low-speed compression,
Yep.
and dial that in quite a bit. Say there's, I don't know how many clicks there are, but say there's 10, I usually do it about 5 or 6 clicks in.
And what is low speed compression going to do to the rear travel?
Low speed compression is going to handle what's called your pedaling bob. So when you're riding and it's doing that, that's not so much of a problem anymore with e-bikes, but it will handle that. It also handles if you're going around a berm, and you want to keep the back end from sinking down in a heavy G out section, or going off a jump. That's a huge one. Going off the lip of a jump, and there's a lot of like slow speed compression on it. That's what the low speed does. High speed's the opposite, hitting a rock really fast. Yeah.
Nice. I was just looking at my, I've completely geeked out here. I don't know if you can see that. No. Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm geeking out. I'm just keeping track of it all because for me, I've never been a suspension geek, and I love to ride, but I don't. There's a lot of bloody buttons. There's a lot of clickers on these bikes.
Totally.
So the big question, then we can just have a chat. So you're a lucky guy. You got the Levo Gen 3, you got the SL, and you got the Kenevo. If you're riding on your own, you can pick whatever trails you want, where you want. Where are you riding, and what bike are you riding?
Well, with this new bike, this answer changed. I was all about, I love the Kenevo, I love the SL, I love the Gen 2, but it, kind of depending on where I rode, it was, the bike would sort of change. This bike changes it all. You can take this thing anywhere. I mean, it's almost like my mullet setup Kenevo. It really is. It's just a little less travel, but it rides the same. The SL is great because it's lighter and it's a little bit more of a nimble trail bike, I guess, because it has lighter weight. But pretty much for the most part, I'm going to take this one everywhere. This bike's incredible. It just does everything. I mean, you can adjust the geometry on it, but I'm just going to take it everywhere.
So I'm going to steal my own question, answer that. But tell me first, where are you riding? So where's your favorite spot to ride?
Well, where I'm riding back here at home, I'm in Southern California. It's pretty dry and rocky and loose. We got a couple trails around here. The closest one that I usually go to it's gnarly. It's just steep and sandstone and rock and sandy, and it's aggressive, So I got it in the low setting, and those new Butcher tires are hooking up much better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me, I'm going to say it, like, if I'm riding on my own, Levo SL all day long. I love that bike. Yeah. There's something, I reckon, like, for me, when we talk about e-bikes in 20 years' time, the Levo SL is the first real e-bike. For me, it's just like, for a mountain bike lover, the SL is just, it hits the nail on the head. It's such a dynamic bike, and it's like, for a 150, I haven't upped the travel yet, man, I can move on that bike. That bike is super fast and nimble, and but if I'm going out with full fats, like full powered e-bikes, you know, I'm a little bit of a full fat guy myself, you know, like it's I'm going to be going the Levo for sure. And the Kenevo, I like the Kenevo, but for my style of riding, I find it a little bit sluggish. I can't move it around. I can't play with it as much as I can play with the Levo. The Levo, as we said, the Levo feels like, unless you're jumping and doing drops, you forget you're on an e-bike, which is amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's great. I always tell people, just look at what you're going to be riding the most, what your style is, and you know, if you prefer downhill laps all day, get the Kenevo. It's great.
Yeah.
If you prefer, you know, a little bit of everything, Levo. If you really want like a normal feeling bike, something that's lighter weight, I guess is what it is, the SL. You really got to just look at what you're going to be riding most.
Yeah, at the moment I'm being a bit of a nasty guy to my friends. I've got a lot of friends here that are super anti e-bikes, and now I've got the Levo. I'm lucky, you know, really lucky. I've got the Levo and I've got a Commensal SX, which is a big 180, basically a Kenevo or similar to a Kenevo. And my mates, I'm handing out the SL to my friends that hate e-bikes, and I'm like, just take it, just ride it for a week. My mate's like, bloody hell, what a bike! I was like, I told you it's a good bike. Mate, my questions are done. If you have any questions or anything, if you want to have a shout out to anyone, this is your time.
Yeah, I gotta say thank you to Specialized for just killing it year after year. I mean, these guys are incredible. Like, you've even asked me this question before, you know, like, if you could change anything with the bike, what would you change? And I'm always like, maybe I have something here and there, you know, that I could change. But I'm always like, man, this is the best bike ever. And they just do it every few years. You know, they come out with something that's even better. They're at the top of their game. It's incredible. So thanks, Specialized, for killing it.
Totally. You know that they're all, like, whoever's involved in the Gen 3, you know, they're all taking a holiday for a couple of months now. And then the Gen 4 starts. And that's a 2-year, 3-year period. That's them just
I'm sure it already has started.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Yeah, like they definitely, you know, as far as, like, I've ridden a lot of bikes now. As far as the integration, the mission control, the whole idea of the e-bike as a whole, no one's doing it better. No one's doing it better.
Absolutely.
Bosch is making some good stuff. Trek's, you know, coming up. Canyon's coming up. But there's no overall package that can compete at the moment.
No, they are light years ahead of everyone. It's crazy. And that's another thing you made me remember, that we didn't really talk about it, but the new TCU on this bike, it's got a screen right on the top of the top tube, and that thing is so much better. I mean, that's a whole nother video. I'm actually going to make one a little bit later today, and it's going to go on YouTube, but it's that screen can do so much. It tells you your elevation, your altitude gain, altitude descent, what time it is, ride time, speedometer. You can hook a heart rate monitor to it. You can customize.
It's a Garmin.
It's a Garmin.
It's I said that on my last video. It was like, you know, like these bikes, you know, not Specialized, all the bike industry try to minimalize these bikes and make them look like normal bikes.
Yeah.
And then we go and stick a big Garmin on the front of our bikes, which are ugly. And let's be honest, they don't work all the time either. And my Garmin is not, I have a love-hate relationship with my Garmin. And so I went out and rode it the other day and connected my heart rate monitor, and it's pretty straightforward. Something I haven't worked out yet is, maybe you know how to do that, so my heart rate monitor is connecting. I can see it in the mastermind, but when I recorded it through mission control, it didn't show me my data of my heart rate, which I wanted to see. You know?
Yeah, you know, I actually haven't done the heart rate monitor thing on there yet. I know you can, but I haven't done it, so I can't exactly help you on that one. But
I think it's
haven't done it.
possible. I must have just not hit something correct, so I've got to find that out. And yeah, man. So when's the trip to Madrid? You got to come.
Oh, we're doing it. I'm thinking maybe later this summer.
The camper van's coming, and like we got the camper van in a month, and I signed up for the race, and my training's going pretty good. Haven't lost much weight yet, but I actually haven't had the diet starts. Well, the diet's already started in a way, but I've pretty much committed to no beer until the race, so I'll definitely lose weight with that. And but I've been training. I've been doing 3 rides a week, 3-hour rides a week, plus 2 days in the gym, and definitely notice I've been hitting the weights pretty hard, and definitely noticed how I can move the bike. The other day I did a road gap on the new SL, and I was coming up short, and I managed to pull the bike and move the bike in the air. Yeah, and I couldn't do that before. Like not on a full fat. Like I could have done it on the Levo SL, but I couldn't have done it on the Levo. And definitely noticing that. So the first race is in June, second one's in September, third one's in September. So you should come in September and do one of the races with me.
That would be so much fun.
Do it, man.
It would be so much fun. Yeah. And now with the new bike, I got something to look forward to. I can ship batteries over there and then fly with the bike, and it's going to be good to go.
Batteries? Don't worry about batteries. I can get you a battery. No worries.
Oh, perfect. Even better.
I can get you the batteries. And it's going to be in Finale Liguda. Have you been to Italy?
No, I haven't been there. I would love to do that though.
Finale Liguda for me is mountain bike. It's probably like what? It's not Whistler. It's not Whistler. Yeah. But it's like a mountain bike mecca where it's 5 hours from the Alps. Yeah. And it's on the beach. Yeah. Not good for my diet because it's got good Italian beer and good Italian pizzas.
Beer, you just cut that out. You can't go there.
No, the race is going to be over. We can celebrate. We can celebrate, definitely. But so the race is going to be there, and that's the last race of the year. You should do that one, man, and come back to Madrid, and I'll show you. Madrid's awesome, and by the sounds of it, it's a lot like California's riding because it's dry, it's rocky, and it's steep. And it's
We should do it. We can make a full video out of it.
Definitely do it. Well, mate, thank you so much for your time. And riders out there, if you have any questions for me or Marshall, hit us up in the comments, or your Instagram is
Marshall Mullen.
Marshall Mullen Instagram. I'll put it in the show notes. Riders, ask us anything. We're here to help, and stay safe out there. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to both our YouTube channels, and I'll see you next Sunday.
Thank you, Sam. Always appreciate you having me on, and I will see you next time.